These brothers bring a unique sense of fashion and business into their eponymous label. One is a master's in fashion, while the other is an MBA in finance, and together their label is a distinctive statement of contemporary and vintage. The first Indian designers to design a collection for ADIDAS, their aesthetic expertise can also be seen on the Mumbai Indians jersey for the Indian Premier League. Joining us today on Tailormade Biz in association with Linen Club are Shantanu and Nikhil Mehra. You came back to an industry where the fashion landscape is very different, little or no journalism, 5-6 veterans in the industry, stalwarts. Was it easy to start the brand?
I think we always had that a bit of entrepreneurial hunger inside of us and a little bit of risk appetite. And I think knowing what he was capable of and he knowing what I was capable of in terms of commercializing and marketing the brand, I think it was a great decision at that time. You can make mistakes and we made plenty. But we did sort of learn from our mistakes and carried on with our journey.
Was there ever a point that you thought, or he came and told you that, listen, your designs are not bringing in any money, you need to change?
Shantanu has a knack of saying that all the time. But in a very subtle way.
You have to thank him for it.
But in a very subtle way.
Yeah.
I think that the combination of having commerce and art come together with a great sensibility of understanding art makes it a very comfortable space for someone like me. I get a chance to understand design from his perspective, how he sees it on a client and how the client then wears it. A lot of times designers actually end up thinking that this world belongs to them and it's their own world. Shantanu puts everything in perspective.
Yeah.
No, but at any point in time, we made it very clear that, we may be brothers, we may be siblings, but when we start a brand, we need to know exactly why we're doing this. What's the intent? Is there a sense of social responsibility? Do we see the dynamics of India changing? So I think from the outset of when we arrived into India, we knew that this market is going to change. It's going to be a young market, but we're going to sort of withstand that sweet pain. We'll continue to use art as the forum and commerce will follow. So at any point in time, me and my team still sort of focus on art being the metaphor of what the brand stands for. Money comes in later on.
You've also had this historic tie-up with ADIDAS. You're designing the Mumbai Indians jersey. What about that? Was that a strategic decision or was it being at the right place at the right time as well?
Basically, we've been sporty since we were kids, swimming for Delhi, playing tennis. Golf came in obviously a little later. Every time we see an opportunity in sport, we grab it. I remember Mumbai Indians also happened because we had a tie-up with ADIDAS. ADIDAS happened because we were on the golf course. And there was an opportunity to be taken. We took it because we understand sport, we understand mobility, agility and functionality. I think those are very key points when it comes to doing fashion in sport.
I think what happened was when we did this show, when for the first time the Indian cricketers walked the runway looking glamorous, and those were the new brigade cricketers at that time, Yuvraj Singh, Zaheer Khan, Harbhajan Singh, Mohammad Kaif. I think they wore couture and walked the runway, which gave us the belief that a bit of sportswear pedigree can also come into our couture. So we started working on certain parallelly driven textures that were kind of sport details.
Like the
pleats, leather details, textures, tapes. All of those things started to come into our lives. And being sportsmen, we sort of understood that better than most.
Talking about runways, tell me about fashion weeks. There are so many of them now. Do they bring in business? Is it a B2B concept or a B2C concept?
It started off magnificently, I would say. I think 2001 was the beginning of fashion becoming an industry when the Lakme India Fashion Week took off in Bombay. And I think that pretty much gave the impetus. Let's just be honest, for the next 8 or 9 years from there on, there was business, there was interest in fashion. Media suddenly became very aware of how Indian fashion can now become more commercial.
Right.
You started to see more rich brands and rich collections coming on the forefront. Many more multi-designer outlets opened. Post the 2010-11, More so after the bifurcation of Lakme India Fashion Week, Amazon and Will's Lifestyle India Fashion Week happening, and then I think there was a bit of too much fashion. Maybe too much fashion coming out is also not the best thing.
Yeah.
Because then I felt a little sorry for the younger talent and the generation of kids that were coming out using these platforms, but they were kind of lost in transition because the media suddenly also changed its game around. They were snippets as opposed to long stories. So I don't think we've been able to find in the last 4 or 5 years an X-Factor designer. Up until 2008-9, there were many that came along the way and stood their ground, made Indian fashion look viable, durable. But I don't see any more names in the last 5 or 6 years that we feel is the next best bet. So just goes to show that maybe fashion weeks have become just a run-of-the-mill right now, where the consumer focus has suddenly gone away.
So 19 years later, you're now, you're called the Masters of Drape, the only Indian contemporary designers. It's been a very long journey. What was that one aha moment?
You know, in design, you'll have aha moments a lot.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, aha, what the hell happened? That also happens a lot. But I think the turning point in our aha moment was when we introduced the menswear kurta with the drape.
Right.
And it was just something out of sheer frustration to see men wear loose kurtas, almost non-silhouette based, seem like they don't care, and Indian men care.
They do.
And once we did the draped kurta, it just was it's still an aha moment for us because it's continued since 4.5 years, and it's been fantastic. I mean, we've seen a whole new generation of men walking into stores and kind of speaking their or talking about their language through clothes.
Our narrative of making the Nehru collar look sexy and more younger, so that you go back to nostalgia for the young millennials, I think that was also one of the biggest defining factors, because we could narrate stories around menswear.
Let's talk a little bit about linen, what you feel about it.
Well, to begin with, it is definitely the most likable fabric in the world as we speak. And also, if you understand how the climate has changed across, the value of linen really goes up by 100-fold. And the color palettes. I think in today's day and age, everyone is looking for happiness. The happy colors come from linen. Linen really brings out a certain natural tonality, an emotion. And I think linen for us is an emotional fabric. And we are in the most emotional country in the world.
That's true.
And I think that's what the world has begun to understand, and India is fast waking up to how beautiful this fabric is and how durable this fabric is, even from an occasion wear perspective.
Up until now, we were looking at cotton. This is the luxury version of that lifestyle. And as the consumer gets more aspiring to move up the ladder, linen is right on top.
We started at your showroom, we've been to the Linen Club store, now we're at your factory. So what is your take on everything you saw at the store?
I think the Linen Club offered some magnificent variations of linen. I have never seen so many textures, exquisite craftsmanship. I think everything on the offer, from bespoke to ready to wear, I think the Linen Club just sort of nailed it when it came to linen.
I feel that Linen Club also has a process which is so artistic. It's like Shantanu said, it's bespoke. To be able to produce something where the raw materials really come from the source, and Linen Club is known for that. Every time you go there, you see certain textures and shapes and weaves that I have not seen in linen. So very happy to have done this today.
Thank you guys for joining us today. Lovely to meet Shantanu with Nikhil and Nikhil Shantanu and your version of each other. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you all for watching. See you next time.